The story begins with friends Emma and Lonnie already in Thailand, where they are attending the wedding of an acquaintance at a luxury resort. After greeting their friend, Lonnie steps away to talk with her fiancé, while Emma goes to the buffet. While choosing what to eat, she meets Mandel, who explains the dishes. He shows a fried silkworm, saying it is his favorite, and offers it to her. Emma says that she does not like insects, but Mandel manages to convince her to try it. However, she almost feels sick and needs to drink some water before saying goodbye. A few hours later, Mandel approaches again to introduce himself to Emma. Upon noticing that he speaks Thai fluently, she asks if he lives nearby and discovers that he is a sailor who has recently arrived from Australia. Excited about the ecological tour he will take the next day, he says that he loves seeing the sharks steal the show. Upon learning that Emma is a nurse, Mandel flirts with her, saying that the color of her eyes brings good luck on that island. Lonnie approaches and Emma introduces her, revealing that her friend shares the same profession. Later, while they take part in a Thai ritual with the newlyweds, Emma notices Mandel's mysterious manner and comments on it with her friend. Lonnie thinks he is cute and jokes that her friend should give a tropical romance a chance. The conversation between the two is interrupted when the sailor returns and asks about their plans for the next day. Knowing that they intend to take a common cruise around the bay, Mandel invites them to visit the shark sanctuary. Emma hesitates out of fear of the animals, but Lonnie becomes excited by the exotic idea. The captain insists that it will be a unique opportunity to connect with nature. In the morning, Emma decides to accompany Lonnie on the tour, and the two meet Mandel. He introduces his right-hand man, Ruhan, who has just returned from the Great Barrier Reef. While Emma seems apprehensive, Lanny becomes excited and starts recording everything. They soon depart, and during the journey, Lonnie asks if there will be any signal because she needs to speak with her fiancé. Mandel explains that they will be without signal until they return, but jokes by saying that she can send a message in a bottle. Shortly afterward, Lonnie looks inside a bucket and comments that, even as a nurse who has already seen disgusting things, that manages to surpass everything. Ruhan explains that they are bait for the sharks and asks if she likes them. Apprehensive, Lonnie replies that she likes everything in nature, as long as it does not want to devour her. Emma, worried, asks if the sharks are dangerous, but Mandel reassures her, saying that they are more curious than threatening. He comments that humans are the real threat and that they have colder blood than sharks. Impressed by Mandel's philosophy, Emma discovers that he used to be a marine biologist, but that life had other plans. Excited by the tour, she begins to enjoy the experience, while Lonnie continues recording. Later, they finally arrive at the bay, and Mandel explains that it is a breeding and hunting ground for sharks. He asks them to stay attentive, because the animals appear and disappear quickly. Lonnie soon becomes excited when she spots a shark, while Mandel explains that each animal has different characteristics, even belonging to the same species. Then he asks Ruhan to pass the bait, but Lonnie feels disgusted and does not want to take it. Mandel explains that the bucket contains fish guts and blood, which for sharks are like ice cream. He insists that Lonnie throw the bait, saying that soon they will see more than 10 sharks in the place. Lonnie gathers courage and pours out the contents, attracting several animals. While Emma records her friend, Mandel continues explaining that each shark has its own personality. Some are more timid, others more daring, and some unpredictable, so it is necessary to be careful. Emma asks if they only attack when they are in a bad mood, but Mandel explains that normally they do not attack humans. However, because they are very active animals, they may bite if they mistake someone for prey. He jokes, saying that they should not act like prey, because bites usually come with bacteria, since sharks are always chewing something. Mandel suggests that they pet the sharks, but Emma immediately refuses out of fear. He insists that this is part of the tour, saying that he does it all the time and that they only need to touch the animal for 1 second. After much insistence, he manages to convince Emma to touch the creature, and she compares its scales to sandpaper. Mandel holds her hands and explains that the texture is caused by the scars left by other sharks, since they are extremely territorial. Lonnie notices the cute moment between the two and continues recording. Later, Mandel announces the second show of the day, and Ruhan throws a piece of meat attached to a chain into the sea. Several tiger sharks appear, while Mandel continues explaining about the species. Suddenly, an enormous shark grabs the meat and begins shaking the boat. Desperate, they ask if that is normal, but Mandel says no and asks them to stay calm. Ruhan takes a sharp object and begins stabbing the animal, while Mandel insists that he release the chain. He warns that this will only make the shark more aggressive, but Ruhan ignores him and continues. The captain approaches to free the creature, but has difficulty even using pliers. The gigantic shark continues pulling the boat until Mandel finally manages to release it. He tries to reassure the girls, who are terrified, and then threatens to fire Ruhan if he does that again. Mandel approaches the two and explains that the shark was Sheena, the local celebrity. Worried, Emma comments that she seemed furious, but Mandel explains that the enormous 4-meter shark is pregnant, which justifies her aggressiveness. He steps away to help Ruhan and realizes that the engine has broken down, while Ruhan notices water entering the boat. Imagining the worst, he warns the captain, who looks to confirm the situation without the girls noticing. Then, the captain gives life jackets to the two, asking them to stay calm and stating that everything is all right. Emma and Lonnie realize that something is wrong, while the men continue desperately trying to fix the damage. The water keeps entering the boat, and the sharks begin circling the vessel. Later, while Ruhan and Lonnie remove the water from the boat, Mandel desperately tries to call for rescue. He insists on speaking with his friend Simon, but the signal suffers interference. Nervous, Lonnie asks why he does not answer, and Mandel says that he will answer, but there is interference near the cliffs. Worried, she asks what they will do if they cannot make contact, since the boat is almost tipping over. Mandel explains that the hull was damaged and the water has already passed the center line, forcing them to evacuate at any moment. Lonnie asks where they will go, but he does not know how to answer and analyzes the situation. She also asks about the rafts, but Mandel says that they only have life buoys. To reassure her, he points to the island and explains that there is a village beyond the hill. Mandel decides to swim there, leaving Lonnie frightened by the idea. He explains that sharks do not usually attack people, and that attack cases happen by mistake. When she asks what will happen if he does not return, Mandel admits that accidents can happen, but someone will have to go at some point. Before leaving, he asks Lonnie to continue removing the water. Mandel also says that they do not need to worry, because there is no blood in the water. He enters the sea and checks if there are sharks before swimming toward the island. However, the animals begin to approach, and Ruhan notices the situation, saying that Mandel will be devoured. Emma tries to keep hope, saying that he will make it, but Ruhan insists that there are too many sharks. Without noticing the danger behind him, Mandel continues swimming desperately and manages to reach the shallow part. He shouts to the others that they made it, but Emma asks him to get out of the water. Not understanding the reason, Mandel continues moving forward until he reaches the beach, leaving Ruhan relieved and the girls celebrating. Then, he enters the woods in search of the village. A few hours pass, and Lonnie begins to worry about the delay. Ruhan asks her to continue removing the water because the boat is sinking. Lonnie tells Emma that they can also reach the island, but Ruhan replies that the captain was lucky. Desperate, he tries again to contact Simon, without success. Lonnie suggests that they move the boat to get a signal, but Ruhan explains that this is impossible because of the number of sharks and asks them to keep working. Meanwhile, Mandel continues searching for the village, but appears to be lost. On the boat, the others keep removing the water until Ruhan loses his patience and begins saying nonsensical things. Not understanding, they only stare at him, so he decides to tell a story. Years earlier, 2 Australian tourists were observing sharks inside a cage when one of the creatures managed to invade the structure and attack them. Ruhan says that he managed to save one of the tourists, but the other lost his life during the attack. Emma comments that there is nothing to do because they are in the monster's territory. With no alternatives, they continue removing the water. Meanwhile, Mandel finally spots the village, but needs to cross a river. When he finds a small kayak, He decides to use it. At the same time, the vessel continues sinking, and Ruhan desperately tries to make contact. Lonnie has already lost hope and believes that no one will come, while Emma tries to maintain her confidence. When Lonnie begins to panic over the possibility of dying, Emma tries to calm her down. Irritated, Ruhan tells her to keep working instead of thinking nonsense, and the two have a brief argument. Suddenly, Emma spots Mandel approaching in a kayak, leaving everyone relieved. He returns to the boat and asks the two to go to the island, explains where the village is, and instructs them to look for help. Ruhan does not accept the situation and says that he can arrive faster, but Mandel states that they are the priority. Terrified, he refuses, but the captain asks him to fulfill his role as a sailor, and Ruhan ends up accepting. Then another problem appears. The oar begins to be carried away by the current. With no options, Mandel returns to the water to retrieve it and manages to reach the object. However, while returning, a creature bites his leg. He fights the animal and manages to swim back to the boat. The two nurses immediately begin treating the wound, while Ruhan watches the injury in terror. Lonnie decides to abandon him and calls Emma to leave, but Ruhan tries to stop them by entering the kayak. Mandel grabs him by the neck, while the two enter the vessel. The two men enter into a physical fight until Ruhan presses the captain's wound, making him release him. Ruhan begins pulling the two back and demands that they get out of the kayak. With no options, he jumps into the vessel and makes the two fall into the water. Lonnie tries to return, but Ruhan draws a knife to keep them away. Emma manages to get back to the boat, while Lonnie insists on recovering the kayak and continues fighting. Ruhan strikes her on the head with the oar to push her away, but she does not give up. Lonnie manages to grab the oar and begins to return, but becomes dizzy because of the blow, causing Emma to decide to help her. The two manage to return to the boat, while Emma furiously watches Ruhan flee using his own hands as oars. Still dizzy, Lonnie remains beside her friend, while Mandel begins to lose vital liquid, which spreads through the water. Then we discover that Ruhan also pierced Lonnie, causing her to lose vital liquid. While Emma tries to minimize the situation, Mandel manages to stop his own bleeding. Meanwhile, Ruhan is still far from the island and remains apprehensive. On the boat, Mandel continues trying to contact Simon, but gets no response. Emma tries to keep Lonnie awake until she says that she can no longer feel her hands. The red liquid begins to attract the sharks, which come closer and closer. Mandel gets some signal and tries again to speak with Simon. Emma tries to reassure Lonnie, saying that they will be rescued, but realizes that her friend has died. Mandel insists on making contact, but fails once again. Shaken, Emma hears Mandel say that they need to act, and that she cannot show fear in front of the animals. He explains that they need to get out of there because the boat is sinking quickly and the fluid is attracting even more sharks. Mandel tries to repeat his philosophy, saying that the attack happened by mistake, but Emma loses her patience and yells at him. She refuses to abandon her friend, but Mandel says that there is nothing else to do because Lonnie is already dead. While they argue, the sharks come closer and closer. Mandel watches the animals while Emma tries to improvise a raft for Lonnie's body. He asks her to use her friend as bait, but Emma rejects the idea. Increasingly apprehensive, Mandel insists that this is the only way for her to survive. He also warns that he will not be able to escape because he is losing too much fluid and tells Emma to run. He shouts that the sharks are everywhere and insists that Emma use Lonnie as bait because her friend would do the same. That would give her time to escape, but Emma insists on the raft plan. Mandel explains that it will not work because it can barely float. He says that he is already almost dead, while Emma can still survive, and insists that she fight for her own life. Emma breaks down in tears because she does not want to do that, but Mandel keeps asking her to throw Lonnie out. She apologizes to her friend and finally throws her into the water, causing the creatures to devour her without mercy. Mandel moves toward the improvised raft and calls for Emma, who is disoriented. The boat begins to capsize, and Mandel ends up drifting away, while Emma, shaken, lets herself sink with the vessel. Worried, Mandel looks for her and dives to find her. Shortly afterward, he manages to save her, and the two return to the surface. They spend the entire long night adrift, while Mandel tries to make contact by radio. The next morning, Mandel is weakened because of his severe injuries when Emma spots the creatures approaching and warns him. He gives his necklace to her, making her understand that he intends to sacrifice himself. Emma begs him not to do that, remembering that he had promised to stay with her. Mandel recalls what he said at the beginning, that green eyes meant luck in that place. He says that she will be found, but Emma insists that she cannot be alone. Mandel says goodbye and begins to move away, while Emma breaks down in tears. The man is soon brutally attacked and dragged to the bottom, leaving Emma devastated. The day is ending, and she is almost out of hope when she spots a vessel. Emma tries to shout, but is not noticed, so she decides to reach the radio left by Mandel. She manages to grab it and begins to return, but sees an enormous shark. Frightened, she returns to the raft and tries to contact someone. The enormous shark continues circling Emma, while she insists on trying to make contact with the vessel. Finally, she manages to establish some communication, although she has difficulty understanding what they are saying. Suddenly, the creature advances quickly toward her, increasing the woman's desperation even more. At that moment, the scene cuts and reveals that Emma managed to be rescued. After cleaning herself in the bathroom, she finally goes outside and realizes that that whole nightmare has come to an end. However, the feeling of relief lasts only a short time because Ruhan also managed to survive and spots Emma resting. He returns inside and, fearing that she will report him for what happened, approaches stealthily to try to kill her. Ruhan attacks her and begins to assault her furiously, but Emma, even wounded and weakened, manages to react. She grabs an old rudder and hits the man's leg, making him fall. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Emma takes a tool and begins striking him. Ruhan realizes that he can no longer fight and tries to surrender, saying that he lost, but Emma shows no mercy. She pushes him into the sea and makes it clear that this is for her friend. Now desperate and alone in the open sea, Ruhan tries to stay alive, but ends up being reached and devoured by the creatures. In the end, Emma can rest after the nightmare she faced. Sitting and still shaken, she feels relieved for having managed to survive and, above all, for finally having avenged the death of her friend Lonnie.